The 2024 NHL offseason has already been filled with blockbuster trades, major free agent signings, and a few pricey buyouts. That's not even mentioning what was a very stacked 2024 NHL draft from the Sphere in Las Vegas. Things only kicked into a higher gear as the clock struck noon on July 1st and the free agent market opened. For the first time in league history, over $1 billion were spent across the league, as many of the biggest available names were taken off the board within a couple hours. Keeping that in mind, today we're breaking down the biggest winners and losers of NHL free agency so far. Winner, the Nashville Predators. Remember just 12 months ago when we all thought that Barry Trotz and the Nashville Predators could be heading towards a rebuild before they signed one of the best centers available on the open market in veteran Ryan O'Reilly? Well, after a great season from Philip Forsberg, Roman Josi once again finishing top 3 in Norris Trophy voting, and the team willing themselves into the Stanley Cup playoffs, the narrative seems to have flipped. Barry Trotz has been extremely active this offseason, extending star goaltender Juuse Saros to an 8-year extension and signing 3 big-name free agents. First up was Steven Stamkos, inked for 4 years at a cap hit of $8 million. It's a big payday for the former Lightning captain on his first deal outside of Tampa Bay after they decided to go all in on Jake Guentzel rather than pay him what he deserved. Trotz also brought blue liner Brady Shea in from the Carolina Hurricanes on a 7-year, $7 million deal to bolster his defensive core, and was able to snag last year's Conn Smythe Trophy winner in Jonathan Marchessault for 5 years at $5.5 million. While those contracts may not age super well and look good in 4 or 5 years, it's pretty clear the Predators intend to compete and win now. The city of Nashville itself certainly helps attract these big names as one of the more desirable places for NHL players to live, but we can't help ourselves from saying, bravo, Barry. Loser, the Detroit Red Wings. If you're going to ship out one of your top 4 blue liners in Jake Wallman, plus a second-round pick for absolutely nothing, which teams would have likely paid, you'd better have some grand plan. Or should I say, Yzer plan. Red Wings GM Steve Yzerman has retained Patrick Kane, but Vladimir Tarasenko, Cam Talbot, Eric Gustafsson, Christian Fischer, and Jack Campbell stand as the biggest additions to a team that missed the playoffs for an 8th consecutive season last year. How much longer can Yzerman dine out on his legendary status before the fans command more? It was rumored that Detroit was in on Stamkos, which makes sense given the Yzerman-Tampa Bay connection, but regardless of if it was close, that didn't materialize. Lucas Raymond and Moritz Seider also remain in need of big contract extensions and will both demand much of Detroit's remaining cap space. Detroit's offseason has simply been lackluster and nowhere near good enough to improve their playoff chances unless a major trade is coming. Winners, the Chicago Blackhawks and San Jose Sharks. Yeah, we're grouping these two together because they've basically done the same thing. Rebuilds can be long and painful, but the winners of the last 2 NHL draft lotteries are doing it right. Both have their future franchise center, the Blackhawks in Connor Bedard, and now the San Jose Sharks in the form of Macklin Celebrini, with each also drafting many other promising kids like Artyom Levshunov and Will Smith. Now, both teams have added veteran NHLers to both reach the salary cap floor and help guide their young players through the rigors of an NHL schedule. Tyler Toffoli, Alexander Wenberg, and Barclay Goodrow have joined the fold in Northern California, while Chicago really leaned into improving by inking forwards Tyler Bertuzzi and Teuvo Teravainen, veteran D-men Alec Martinez and TJ Brody, and a goaltender in Laurent Brossoit, who has a .915 save percentage in 72 games over the past 3 seasons, and may be ready for a true tandem role with Peter Mrazek. While neither team will contend for a Stanley Cup anytime soon, they at least have a hope of being better next year. Loser, the Los Angeles Kings. Well, moving off the Pierre-Luc Dubois contract was wise long-term, the LA Kings have absolutely gotten their clocks cleaned by other teams this summer. To make matters worse, LA hasn't advanced past round 1 of the playoffs since Rob Blake became their GM in 2017, as the Oilers once again had their number in the playoffs. Darcy Kemper had worse numbers than Cam Talbot did last year, and they lost both Victor Arvidsson and Matt Roy in free agency, handing out multi-year deals at AAVs north of $3 million for checking forward Warren Foegele, and Death blue liner Joel Edmondson does not move the needle. Edmondson's deal of 4 years at $3.8 million is especially mind-boggling, a massive overpay in the eyes of many. Their biggest win was simply correcting the brutal Pierre-Luc Dubois mistake that cost them some key players and draft capital just a year ago. If they manage to make the playoffs, look for the Oilers to bounce them once again. Winner, the Edmonton Oilers. Speaking of the team that went all the way to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final, only to come up short, the Oilers might look even better in 2024-25. The Oilers' very effective third forward line all hit the market, but Edmonton was able to hold on to all of Adam Henrique, Connor Brown, and Matthias Janmark at reasonable cap hits. They did lose Warren Foegele to the LA Kings, but added secondary scoring with Victor Arvidsson and Jeff Skinner. Their forward core looks deep, and if they are somehow able to move Darnell Nurse or Evander Kane and add more, the Oilers may sneakily win the entire offseason and be primed for another deep playoff run. I didn't even mention the Jack Campbell buyout. Extensions for Leon Draisaitl and Evan Bouchard must also remain top priorities. Connor McDavid's team was within 1 goal of tying Game 7, so close to Lord Stanley they could almost taste it, and best believe they want to get there again. Loser, the Buffalo Sabres. If you buy out your third leading goal scorer, it better be a part of a plan that makes you better. The Sabres will now pay Jeff Skinner $2.4 million not to play for them for the next 6 years. They added forwards Jason Zucker, Sam Lafferty, and Nicholas Aube-Kubel up front, who scored 35 goals combined last season. That's only 10 more than Skinner did alone. Buffalo also signed Jacob Bryson and Dennis Gilbert for their back end. Were these really the right moves for a team that fired its head coach and is supposedly desperate to end an NHL record playoff drought of 13 years? Where's the aggression from GM Kevin Adams? Winner, the New Jersey Devils. Picked by many as a Stanley Cup contender 12 months ago, the New Jersey Devils were one of the most disappointing teams of last season, largely due to catastrophic injury luck to top players and some of the worst goaltending in the NHL. They quickly addressed their need for a goalie by sending a first-round pick and Kevin Ball to the Calgary Flames for Jacob Markstrom. They kept things rolling by signing one of the top D-men on the market in Brett Pesce for 6 years at $5.5 million, and rounded things out by adding depth in Stefan Nason, Thomas Tatar, and Brendan Dillon. If this team can avoid even some of the injury troubles of last season, they are going to be an absolute force in the Eastern Conference. Loser, the Colorado Avalanche. Bringing back Jonathan Drouin for another year is a win. He rebounded well last year with the Avs. But otherwise, the Colorado Avalanche are absolutely paralyzed with a lack of cap space. Much of this is due to the questions surrounding Captain Gabriel Landeskog potentially returning after sitting out 2 seasons, and Valeri Nichushkin suspended until later in the fall due to drug use. With Sean Walker also departing as a UFA, the Avalanche have been forced to rely on cheap contracts to fill out their already top-heavy lineup. So yeah, it's ugly, and it will take a lot of creativity to improve or even maintain the status quo for the 2022 Stanley Cup champions. Winner, the Washington Capitals. The Washington Capitals made the first real jaw-dropping move of the offseason, a 1-for-1 trade that sent goaltender Darcy Kemper to the Los Angeles Kings in exchange for Pierre-Luc Dubois. Both players struggled immensely last season, with Kemper losing the crease to Charlie Lindgren and PLD vastly disappointing with his new team. It's a gamble that could work out very well for the Caps, who are still trying to remain competitive after getting swept in round 1 by the New York Rangers. Helping Alex Ovechkin in his race to break Wayne Gretzky's all-time goal record is clearly a priority, but I'm sure Ovi wouldn't complain about another playoff berth. Speaking of acquiring former LA Kings, the Caps also landed one of the best defensemen to hit the market in Matt Roy, signing him to a reasonable 6-year, $5.75 million contract. Their additions on the blue line didn't stop there, as they snagged Jacob Chychrun from the Ottawa Senators in exchange for Nick Jensen and a 3rd-round draft pick, an absolute steal of a trade. Finally, the Capitals paid pennies on the dollar for goaltender Logan Thompson from the Vegas Golden Knights, who has been a quality tendy for the past few years and could continue to blossom in DC. The Dubois trade is a major gamble, but their other moves were huge net gains, making a team that was quickly becoming relevant only for Alex Ovechkin's goal chase officially interesting again. Loser, the Seattle Kraken. In the immediate future, the Seattle Kraken will probably be a better team, but we think they may come to regret signing a couple of deals that they did on July 1st, two of which coming in 7-year terms. Yes, Brandon Montour was probably the best offensive defenseman on the market, especially given the 73-point season he had in 2022-23, and the Kraken still need more top-end skill on their roster. Montour provides that, and whether they go with Montour or Vince Dunn to quarterback their top power play, they should be better offensively. But outside of that 73-point season, Montour has only surpassed 40 points once. And in the fact that he did have a major surgery last year and took a step back after that, and there's plenty to be concerned about. If the Stanley Cup winning Florida Panthers were so easily willing to let Brandon Montour walk, you have to wonder if it's worth paying over $7 million for his services. Another recent Stanley Cup champion that the Kraken threw an absolute bag of money at was Chandler Stevenson, inking him for 7 years at $6.25 million, making him their new highest paid forward. Stevenson has been more productive in recent seasons, but even then, he's topped out at 65 points. And that's been primarily alongside Mark Stone when he's not on LTIR. You're banking quite a lot of your cap space on Stevenson continuing to play that way on a Kraken roster that does not have the same top-end scoring as the Vegas Golden Knights. But that's our list. What have you thought of your team's free agency additions or overall offseason thus far? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to click like if you enjoyed it, and make sure to subscribe for more NHL content. We'll see you in the next video.